If you're an aviation enthusiast or just a fan of airplanes in general, the news of the loss of the historic Antonov 225 Mriyas super jumbo cargo jet is a real gut punch. And frankly, the aviation world is noticeably saddened by this disgusting act by Vladimir Putin. But considering all of the human loss of life and suffering that's taking place in Ukraine at the moment, the loss of a giant aluminum tube is meaningless in the big picture, and it's important to keep that in perspective. However, it is a great loss just the same. After all, the Antonov 225 wasn't like any other aircraft in the world, because it was a one-of-a-kind, the only one in existence. Or was it? What many people don't know, yes, I realize some of you do know, but what some people don't know is that the Mriyas Antonov 225 actually has a like-new, nearly completed twin sister in storage that just needs some funding to assemble her and bring her to life. But there is a problem, a huge problem. The parts for that aircraft are sitting in a nondescript warehouse just a few miles from the airport where the Mriyas was destroyed. So my original idea for this video was to explore the possibility of bringing Mriyas' twin sister to life to follow in her big sister's wingtips. But as I'm typing this script, a story just broke that is going to take this video in a totally different direction. Because it seems the destroyed An-225 still has a faint heartbeat, but is on life support. And now instead of replacing her, the Antonov's twin may actually be donating her organs, so her big sister may live on. That's next on Maximus. Greetings everybody, Maximus here. I hope you're all doing well, wherever you may be, all around this great big world of ours. Well, late Sunday night, the Ukraine defense company that maintains the destroyed An-225 put out a rather defiant press release, which said, and I quote, "Russian occupiers destroyed the flagship of Ukrainian aviation, the legendary An-225 Mriyas." Mriyas is Russian for dream. They said this happened at the Antonov airfield in Gostomel near Kiev, where the plane was undergoing repairs. Now the repairs will cost over $3 billion to restore the plane, and the restoration shall be time-consuming. The occupiers destroyed the airplane, but they won't be able to destroy our common dream, they added. They also stated that Ukraine will make every effort to make the Russian aggressors pay for the cost of the repairs. Well, good luck with that. Okay, so to save time, I'm not going to get into the history of the An-225. It would just take too long, and probably most of you already know it already. But if you're interested, YouTube has some great information on that. But in a nutshell, the An-225 was built at the end of the Cold War because the Soviet Union at the time didn't have an aircraft big enough to haul their new space shuttle that they stole from the United States. No, seriously, that's a total ripoff. So the government ordered Antonov to build 2 jets for that purpose, and Antonov did just that. However, before the second aircraft could be completed, the Soviet Union fell, the Cold War ended, and Ukraine went on its own way. However, Ukraine didn't have the funding to finish the second jet, and the project was shelved and never revisited again. Still, Mriyas, that one Antonov 225, went on to break every aviation cargo hauling record in history. Okay, now that we're caught up. Back in 2018, CNN ran a story about the unfinished second Antonov 225 and was granted access to see the pieces of the behemoth. The writer eloquently put it like this: on the outskirts of Kiev, somewhere between the city's metro stations, sits a drab industrial building that you could drive past 1,000 times without guessing it contains an extraordinary secret. Inside can be found the unfinished chapter of one of the greatest feats of Soviet aviation ever conceived. The only clue is the building's size. It's gargantuan. And of course, it needed to be gargantuan to fit what was inside. The writer went on to say, reaching the unfinished Antonov 225's hangar involves being escorted by car through the vast industrial landscape west of Kiev that Antonov occupies. Entering the building is like stepping into a cathedral of mechanics. It's surprisingly calm and tranquil. The cavernous, endless space swallows up the machinery and airplane parts within. Workers can occasionally be glimpsed in the distance, but the sound of their activity is lost, absorbed by the giant metallic structure. Hey, this writer's pretty good. Towering over everything is the massive fuselage of an unfinished Antonov 225. It's a beast of a thing. If ever completed, it will have a length of 84 meters, a whole 9 meters longer than the world's largest passenger aircraft, the A380 Super Jumbo. And it's an impressive sight, although it is slightly depressing to see this potentially majestic airplane in pieces. The wings that would give it a span of 88.4 meters or 290 feet are unattached, stretching off to one side. The nose gear, a mechanism the size of a house, is also nearby. Okay, so that's a nice story there. But the real problem was that up until the late 90s, air cargo wasn't really a big thing, especially for a plane as large as the 225. But then a little thing called the internet, and especially internet shopping, came into being, and suddenly the air cargo industry exploded. Well, increased cargo traffic means increased profits for cargo airlines, and increased profits provide the ability for cargo companies to buy and build more planes. And suddenly there is a market for the Antonov 225 and someday for her unfinished sister ship as well. But a big question still remained. Who would pay for it? Well, the reason that CNN had a crew in Kiev back in 2018 in the first place was to cover a story that the Chinese were interested in restarting the project. Because China's always gonna China.
So don't tell me about China. I know China.
But then when China insisted on moving all the parts to China, they found that it was just going to cost too much money, so they dropped the whole idea. Today, the second Antonov 225 is about 70% completed. All the essential components of its superstructure have been manufactured, including the fuselage, wings, nose gear, and tail. Antonov said at the time that with about $400 million, the plane could be assembled rather quickly. But sadly, now we all know that price has jumped into the billions. As recently as January of 2022, Turkey was said to be seriously interested in the spare Antonov 225, and it looked like there might be some real interest. But then suddenly at the end of February, Vladimir Putin took a dump on the entire world and everything changed. So what I initially thought was going to be a video on replacing the destroyed Antonov 225 with a whole new aircraft. Now with Ukraine talking about repairing the heavily damaged aircraft, that could logically only mean one thing. They are going to need a second plane for parts, or maybe they will use the plane in the warehouse as the basis for the new plane, and incorporate the engines and whatever else is salvageable of the damaged aircraft and combine it with the unfinished jet. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's not like you can just go to Home Depot and pick up spare Antonov parts these days. So they are going to have to use the entire spare plane they have on hand. Now, my entire theory presupposes that Putin doesn't eventually destroy what's left of the last remaining Antonov 225. But let's hope against hope that that doesn't happen. But after reading the press release from Ukraine today, I believe spare parts or no spare parts, they are serious about rebuilding the Mriya. And after seeing how Ukraine is fighting back to save their country, I believe them. How about you? Let me know down below. Well, just when we thought our world couldn't get any crazier, it did. But don't lose hope. Hang in there, hug your kids, love your family, and stay strong because we can all get through these tough times together. Before we go, I want to say thank you to Dennis for yet even more support for the channel through the Buy Me a Coffee app. Thanks for your support, Dennis. And if you would like to help support the channel, the links are always in the description. And as always, on your way out, please be sure to like, subscribe, share, and ring the bell. And remember, leave the rubber on the runway and your troubles on the ground. And I will see you next time in the air. Yeah, this is Maximus.